Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am working on an art journal page, my last one for the Artsy Trio Facebook group. So get comfy and let's get crafty. This is the December mood board. It was created by Bea Grob. It is all things winter, if winter is when you have Christmas. And I happen to have Christmas in the winter time here. If you live south of the equator, it is probably not winter time when you have Christmas. It would be warm time. I'm going to start by making the background of my art journal page with my gel plate. So I have this Jelly Arts gel plate. I keep it sandwiched between two pieces of copy paper in a Tim Holtz tin. The original clamshell that it came in got cracked. I've also created some mark making tools out of scrap cardboard and craft foam. So I cut these houses out with some old, I think they were Stampin' Up dies, little houses. And I'm putting a layer of yellow acrylic paint, this is distress paint, on my gel plate. This is not the color I want it to be, but I do need to kind of have a little yellow background. The other thing I've done here is tape a piece of bubble wrap to a piece of cardboard, and I've also used a little bit of masking tape to create a little handle. And I saw this on Natasha Draws in Seattle is her Instagram handle, and I will link that down below because she has some really great artwork done with gel prints, and I love it. I've been like binge watching her Instagram. So once I put the bubble wrap down on there, I went ahead and picked up all of this yellow paint. I just wanted a little bit of yellow left, and you can see that that yellow is still very much so on my gel plate. Now I'm going to add this dark blue. I think it's Chip Sapphire. I don't know. I just grabbed the colors, not the names of my distress inks, or paints rather, and I'm putting this on with my brayer. And then I'm going to take my mark making tools, my houses, and stamp them into this gel plate. So one thing I've kind of learned, trial and error, is it's okay to push hard because this is made out of craft foam. But I think I need to trim the cardboard around it a little bit narrower because I do have a couple of places where the cardboard also hit the plate, the gel plate, and remove some of the paint. But because this is not my final project, this is like the background, I'm so okay with it. I'm just adding a couple of rows of houses here. The idea for my page is that it is a nighttime Christmas scene, right? And so a neighborhood full of houses is what I'm going for here. I did try to kind of fix that on the bottom where I pulled up the paint and it didn't work. I do need to dry this off. I'm fanning it with my hand because you know that's super effective. And then went back with the bubble wrap. So one thing I learned by watching Natasha's Insta Reels is that the drier your paint is, the better your pull is. So I did leave this for a minute. Like it is nearly dried. There's a little, I did touch it down on the bottom corner and it left a very small fingerprint. So now I'm going to add the white acrylic paint on top of it. And my titanium white is just about gone, but I did get enough out to add a layer of white to the top of my gel plate. So this actually is the back layer. When you are printing with your gel plate, it goes, the thing you put down first is the front layer, the top layer, the thing you see the most. And the layer you put down last is the back layer, the part that you don't see as well. So I just went ahead and use my brayer to put that acrylic paint down on top, and I'm letting that sit. I'm moving my mark making tools and I'm rolling off my brayer and I'm letting that sit for a minute because that's what I've learned, that I probably have been pulling my prints too fast, like my paint is still too wet. So I let this sit for a few minutes and then I grabbed a clean piece of copy paper. I'm just using a 32-pound copy paper. You can use mixed media paper. There's actual paper designed for gel printing. I just use copy paper. I think it works just fine. In fact, the thicker and more textured the paper, I find the less detail you get on your print. So I put the copy paper down and then I grabbed my heat tool and I am very carefully, I'm not leaving that heat tool close to the surface or on this, pointed at my gel plate very long. I don't want to dry my gel plate out, but I do want that paint to dry. And when the paper stops feeling cold, then you know your paint is dry or dry-ish. So I did heat set this a little bit, and then I also put my heat gun away and I left it be for a few more minutes. I kind of walked into the bathroom and washed the paint off my hands because I had gotten paint all over like my die cut machine and my desk and everything. I was making a mess. And I looked at the corner and it was not peeling up very clean. So I added a little more heat, and I'm just going to keep drying it and keep letting that paint dry so that I get a nice, as crisp a print as I can pull. Now, this is not sped up as fast as I would usually speed up the dry time. I think I only double sped this up. And that's because I wanted you to see that it can be a lengthy process, and that's okay. Don't be in a rush to make your art. So I've gone into the bathroom, washed all the paint off my hands, and I peeled that corner, and you can see my gel plate is coming up almost clean, which is amazing. Now, you don't see the yellow paint too much on this gel print, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. I was hoping it would show up a little bit more on the stars and such, like behind the houses, but that's okay. So one of the things I did while I was waiting for that to dry is I cut out some of the houses out of watercolor paper. This is just a scrap of some store brand watercolor paper, and I grabbed my Zig markers. Now, Zig markers don't color super great on watercolor paper. They do better on like a Bristol or a vellum paper, but I don't need them to be great. I'm going to take this brown. I'm going to cover all the roofs of the houses with this brown Zig pen. And I have a water brush. It's a paintbrush with an empty barrel. It just has water in it. And I have off to the right-hand side of me a rag that I can tip or wipe my brush off if necessary, my paintbrush if it's too wet. And I'm just kind of adding color. So I'm putting brown on the roofs, not very neatly, not very much dimension, not very, it just is what it is. Because this is not going to be how they look in the end anyway. Once I had the roofs done, I went back to the first house I started on and added some pigment to the bottom of that and used that water brush to spread that pigment around. There were a couple of times where my roof pigment was still too wet, and the roof and the color of the house bled together. I think this green one was one of them. Don't care. This was definitely one of the art journal pages that I tried not to overthink. So the Artsy Trio Facebook group will be ending its collaborations in December. December is the last collaboration. Bea Grob, the founding member, one of the founding members of the group, has another group that she is going to be kickstarting, and I will let you know what that is once I have a link for that. I don't think the group has gone live yet, so I will let you know what that is once that link has gone live. But once these were all painted, I did go ahead and pull my heat gun out again. And you can see that as I'm drying them, sometimes they're kind of bubbling up, and you can tell that the watercolor paper is drying once they flatten back out. So then I'm tossing them back in my dish, cleaning up my work surface, and we're going to add these to the art journal page. But this is a nighttime scene, and these house colors are way too bright for nighttime. So I pulled out my archival ink. This is watering can gray. And I went around the edges and over the top of my watercoloring, because in the nighttime, even with a bright moon, those house colors would be much more subdued. So the next thing I did was trim my gel prints down. Now I wanted to eliminate that bottom that I had left quite a large border on, and then I just measured and trimmed out. So I ended up with a 5.5 by 8 inch piece of paper. And I'm going to use some liquid glue, and I am going to glue some of these houses down. I cut more than I needed. I cut more than I knew I would need, but I didn't know how many I would need, if that makes sense at all. So I am just going to put some on the front of this page. I ended up using like 4 of them. So 4 of these little houses fit kind of sort of evenly spaced, like neighborhood spaced, right, on the front of this page. I did contemplate cutting some of the other 2 that I had left over in half and trying, sticking them down behind so that it looked like this neighborhood kind of went up a hill. But I decided no, not to do that. So the next thing I have this Sizzix Santa Claus die. It's a Santa and a sleigh. It comes with a moon and also has a die that cuts out a whole bunch of stars. However, they're really teeny tiny stars, and I noped out of that one too. I did add the Santa Claus down. I'm using some liquid adhesive, and then when I went to wipe it up, it stuck to my rag and pulled up off the page, and so I had to, put it back down. I'm just trying to dab up any glue that is peeking out. Even though Tombow glue dries clear, it is a little bit shiny, a little more shinier than the back of the page, so I don't want that to be something you see. I am adding the moon. I should have moved it over slightly. It does end up with a hole punched in it, but it is what it is. Instead of the star die, I used some star confetti or sequin mix that I have in my stash. I don't know where I purchased this. I don't know when I purchased this. It's in my stash. I'm one of those people who keeps all the things because one of these days I might want it. I think I still have buttons in my craft stash. And when's the last time we used buttons on cards and things? I know. Roll your eyes. Very, very loud eye roll right here. But one of these days I might need it again. All right. Once I have all the stars on there, I'm going to go ahead. I had to make sure that was not glue right there. And the sentiment I printed out was the night before Christmas, because this is a December art journal page. It is, a weekish or so before Christmas. And it was the night before Christmas because Santa Claus is there in the sky. And other than the obvious religious, Mary and Joseph, baby Jesus, wise men, the shepherds, all of the very obvious Christmas characters, Santa Claus is my favorite. I mean, I just like Santa Claus. I like the idea of Santa Claus. I like Santa Claus. So the other thing I did to this page was add some snow. This is a Marva Uchida snow pen. And the way it works is you add some of this white liquid to it works on fabric, it works on paper, it works on just about anything, as long as you can heat it. And then I brought out my heat tool, and once it gets hot, it bubbles up nice and thick, like kind of makes a dimensional snow. I should have done this last because when I flipped my page over, there was a little spot that was not quite dry. And in taping the paper and things to the back of my page, I did kind of flatten my snow. But let's be honest, it's going in an art journal book, and it probably was going to get flattened anyway. I purchased these pens on Amazon. You used to be able to find them in like Joann's and Michael's and Hobby Lobby, but the only place I could find them last year was online on Amazon. So that's where I got them from. Maybe where you live, they're more readily available in your box stores. I didn't even see them on, I looked on Simon Says Stamp last year too and couldn't find them. So I purchased a couple of them through Amazon. I'll link those down below in case you're curious about the pens, but I think they end up looking fantastic. I did have to open a second pen. The first one I was using was just about empty. There was no more coming out. And that's how come there's a big blob right there, because to start the pen, you have to kind of push the nib down and it comes out kind of quick. Should have started it not on my project, but decisions were made, things happened, and we went with it. We just made it work. So once I have a little bit of snow on the ground, I'm adding some snow to the roofs of my houses. And that's kind of the extent of the front of my page. It is a very simple, it was something I was experimenting with, the tool making, like making my own mark making tools for gel printing. So I have this red and green plaid pattern paper. It was on my desk. It was on my desk. So I was trying to put the adhesive onto the pattern paper because I knew that snow might flatten if I pushed down on it too hard. I did not realize it was still wet in one place, like the big blob that came out. But it is what it is. I went ahead and put some double-sided adhesive on the back of my page. I patted it down, and then I'm going to trim it out with my Fiskars trimmer because I can lay the wire right along the edge of my page, and it trims it down just perfectly. And once I have the page trimmed down, I am going to go ahead and throw it, that's not the right word, tape, words are hard, tape the mood board photograph down to the back of my art journal page. And then it was still kind of leaving spots. So I pulled my heat tool out and heat set the snow pen pigment stuffy, whatever it's called again. And then I pulled out my white gel pen and dated it, wrote my name and dated it December of 24. And then I'm going to put holes in it so that when it is dry completely, I can add it to my art journal page, because that's what I do with. And here, hopefully you can see it, zoom in a little bit and get a better look at that snow. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have a couple of other videos here I think you would like. I've also added that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I hope you have a very happy holiday season. Talk to you later.